Welcome guys to a new video, and in this video we're going to move on and go over Implement NAT on Cisco ASA, and we're going to start with Static NAT. So NAT, Network Access Translation, and this is for the CCNA Security exam. So if you are taking this exam and if you want to know how to configure Static NAT, I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're first going to do it with the ASDM, and then after we're done with the ASDM, we are going to implement it using the CLI or the command line interface. So let's go ahead and start with this PowerPoint first. So we're going to start with the PowerPoint and then we're going to start configuring static NAT. So what is static NAT, guys? Well, if you guys know from your CCNA exam, if you pass that exam, you should know that static NAT is a one-to-one permanent mapping. If you have 100 internal users and 100 global addresses, a one-to-one mapping can be done for every user. We do not usually have enough global addresses for each user. And a typical use for static mapping is this. If we have a server on the inside of our network or perhaps on a DMZ, which is how we're going to do it on the DNS3 topology, if we have it on your DMZ interface of our firewall and we want to allow devices on the internet to access a specific device, you can configure a static NAT to that server on the DMZ interface to the outside um, or the internet. So this is what we're going to do in our DNS3 topology that we have. And static path or static port address translation, it is just if you imagine a network that has just one single public IP address, and this IP address must be used by the firewall that connects to the network to the internet. It must also be used as the port address translation address for all outbound connections. If this network must also support a DMZ server, then a static path can be used. For example, TCP port 80 may be reversed for path or for path translation to the HTTP server service on the DMZ server. A static path is sometimes called port forwarding. We're not going to worry about static path because we don't have to know how to configure for the CCNA security. I just wanted you guys to know that there is a static path as well. And a static path. A static NAT or static network address translation, like I said before, maps a private IP address to a public IP address. It is a one-to-one static network address translation, and it is particularly used when a device must be accessible from the outside the network, and this is usually for a server like HTTP, DNS, FTP, or whatever other server there is. Even a TACAC server could be configured for that, which is what we're going to be doing. And as you can see, we have this pool of private IP address. What we're going to do is we're going to match it with this other pool. So we're going to say that 192.168.16.2 is going to be matched with 213.16.48.2, and this one is going to be matching with the first one, this one with the third one, and this one with number 4. And that's how static NAT works. And that's what we're going to go ahead and configure. We're not going to worry about dynamic NAT because I'm going to make another video for that. So let's go ahead and start this topology that I have right here. And I already configured the router with its IP address, and I also added a static route to send everything to the ASA. So that way we have connection between these two. This section right here, the TACAX server, is going to be the DMZ server that we're going to add the static NAT to it. So let's go ahead and start with this um, configuration of the Cisco ASA. So we want to go to config T. We want to give it a host name of just ASA. Just because, just to make it better, we're going to go interface gigabit 01, which is the one going to the router, and this one is going to have that IP address of 200.1.1.1. We're going to name this internet, and by default, that's going to give you a security level of for internet is going to be set to 0 by default, so that's good. Let's keep not shut down, end it, and we should be able to ping the router now. There we go. We are able to ping the router, so that's good. Now let's go ahead and configure gigabit 02, which is um, the DMZ zone right here. It's going to have an IP address of 16.1.1.1. Not shut down. Name if it's going to be DMZ. It's going to set it to 0, but You don't want to set it to 0. You want to do a security level to be 50. Now shut down. Now you should be able to ping 172.16.1.2. So that I do now shut down. So I'm not able to ping the TACAX server. Let's go ahead and see what's up with this TACAX server. So I did configure, okay, so the IP address is 172.16.1.3. That's why I'm not able to ping that 3. There we go. So now we're able to ping that TACAX server that we have configured. So that is good. Let's go ahead and go back to config D and configure Gigabyte 00, which is the inside network with an IP address of 192.168.1.1/24. The name if is going to be inside, and the security level by default is going to be 100. You can do no shutdown. Then we're going to exit, and now we need to configure an IP address for the ASDM. So let's go ahead and do that because I have not configured that. And there's going to be a Linux computer, so you need to do if config eth0, and then the IP address 192.168.1.2, net mask 255.255.255.0, and then we need to add the default gateway. So route add default gateway 192.168.1.1. Then we should be able to ping the firewall. There we go. So we're able to ping the firewall. That means that we have a connection. So that's good. And now if we want to be able to launch this ASDM. So for us to be able to launch this, we need to configure the HTTP server. So we need to enable that. And then after that, you need to do HTTP and add, you can just add an IP address. Can you do a host? No, you cannot do a host. Let's add this. .1.2, 255.255.255.0. Or actually 255.255. And then do inside. So that's going to allow this IP address to be able to connect to this ASA via HTTP or HTTP, and that way it's going to be able we were going to be able to launch this ASDM. Let's see, and you can see we were able to launch it. Let's say no for now because I want to create a username first. It's going to be Oscar, and the password is going to be Cisco 123, and then you want to do Oscar or username Oscar privilege. You want to do the username Oscar. Okay, let's try this again. We have to go to username, Oscar, password, and I think after that we can do a privilege. There we go. Privilege 15, which is the highest one. You can just end it and save it. And now let's go ahead and say no. And let's go ahead and launch it again. Close. Cancel. Application, ASDM launcher, 192.168.1.1. Always trust, yes. And then username, Oscar, password, Cisco 123. There we go. So now we are able to launch the ASDM. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to configure that static NAT. There it is. We can enable login. That's fine. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to configuration. Then you want to go to firewall. And then from firewall, what we want to do is we want to create some objects. So we want to go to objects and network objects. And we want to add a new one. And this one is going to be we're going to define the DMZ server. So you can do DMZ server. Let's put it on cap server. It's going to be a host with an IP address of 172.16.1.3. Description is this is the DMZ server. And then for NAT, we are going to add an automatic address translation, and we're going to go ahead and click over here, and we're going to add a new object. And this object over here, um, we are going to name it DMZ trans. So it's going to translate that to the IP address of 200. Oops, it does not like my zeros. So what we're going to do is going to be 200.1.1.2. We're going to do DMZ translation to the internet. And we're not going to add any of that. Let's go ahead and click OK. And now we are going to choose that DMZ translation. Click OK. So what's going to happen is this IP address, oop, I forgot a 172, 172.16.1.3 is going to be translated into this IP address. Click OK, apply. Let's go ahead and save it. So now if we want to, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go into the TACAX GUI, and let's see if we are able to ping. And let's go ahead and open the router as well. So the router is going to be over here. Oops, let's go ahead and move it. And then open the TACAX GUI, which is in this DMZ zone. And what we want to do is we want to ping the router. And I want to do a debug IP ICMP. And you're going to see that when we ping 200.1.1.2, you can see that we get those ICMP packets, but we're not able to, when we reply, we're not able to get into the DMZ zone. So what we need to do is let's go ahead to the TACAX GUI, and let's go ahead and cancel those pings. There we go, they're canceled. So now what we need to do is we need to create a rule or an ACL so this ping can make it back to the DMZ. So let's go ahead and go into this ASDM again. Now from over here, let's go ahead and add an access rule. And let's go ahead and add one. And the interface is going to be the internet, and it's going to be a source. If you want to be specific, you can. So we are going to be specific. The source of is going to be, so we're going to create a source. So let's add a network object. We can say router to DMZ. It's going to be a host IP address of 200. This 200 is not work. 200.1.1.2. It's going to be router outside to DMZ server. Added. So now we can go ahead and select that object, which is this one right here. So let's go ahead and add that. And I think I saw something wrong. And the destination is going to be the DMZ interface. Let's see if that works. So source is a DMZ. It's not DMZ trans. It needs to be the router outside. There we go. So let's go ahead and remove this one over here. Router DMZ. Let's go ahead and click OK. Let's go ahead and apply it. Save the changes. Now let's see if that works now. So let's go ahead and open the router. And let's go ahead and try to ping that router again. And as you can see, the router is able to get those but it looks like it's not translating. It looks like it is, the destination is 72.16.1.3, but so you don't want that. So I configure something wrong because the destinations, it is saying that it's 172.16.1.3. So it looks like it is not translating. So like I said, I saw something that was wrong. So let's go ahead and go back to the objects, network objects, this one right here. It needs to be 172. What happened over here? So 172, okay. Let's see what the router is saying. Let's go ahead and try to ping again. Let's see what the router says. See if the destination says 200.1.1.3. So now I'm not getting anything. So let's see what's happening over here. Let's go ahead into DMZ server, static, and it is going to translate into the DMZ translate. Let's see if that is correct. So the DMZ, let's go ahead and make this bigger. DMZ translate into 200.1.1.2. Okay, so we need to edit this and make it .3 because that's the IP address of the router. Okay, apply it, save it. Let's see what happens now. Let's go ahead and open the router. And as you can see now, the destination is 200.1.1.3. So we have the we have the destination correctly. So let's go ahead and stop. Let's go ahead and stop the pings. Okay, and let's go ahead and go back to the ASDM, and we probably have something wrong with the access rule. So let's go ahead and open this or edit it. So the source of it is the router DMZ, which is 200.1.1.2, so that is good. For the destination, we're gonna have probably to change this. So what we could do is go ahead and add the router DMZ, or not the router DMZ, we need to add the DMZ trans, and we can go ahead and remove this, apply it, save it. Let's go ahead and ping again. So we are able to ping still, but it looks like the access list is still blocking the 200.1.1.2 getting into the 200.1.1.3. So it is still not working. So let's go ahead and go back, and so let's go ahead and edit this. So the source is router DMZ, which is correctly, and the destination, let's go ahead and change it to, which one did I do? DMZ trans, oh, I was doing it to a DMZ translation. It needs to be to a DMZ server. I'm sorry for that. I keep getting confused. I need to come up with better names. Okay, okay, apply, save it. Let's go ahead and ping again. And there we go. Now we're getting replies because we have added that ACL correctly. So if we can just go ahead and stop this. So what we need to do is, oop, that's too big for the screen. So the rule that I kept configuring incorrectly, what I did was I just added the correct router DMZ, which is the IP address that we want to allow. The source is a router DMZ, which is 200.1.1.2, which is the IP address of this router right here. And then the destination was the DMZ server, which is 172.16.1.3. So you don't need to add the DMZ translation. You want to add the DMZ server itself. So the host of that server, not the DMZ translation. Okay, so as you can see, it is working now. If we do a ping again, you can see that it is being translated over here to 200.1.1.3. And if you want to see that translation, you can go ahead to the ASDM and you can go to Tools, Command Line Interface. And from this command line interface, you can do a show X slate. Is that what it is? Yep, there we go. So the command show X slate, you can see right here that there is one in use and one most used. And you can see that NAT or static NAT. It is a NAT from 172.16.1.3. It is being translated into 200.1.1.3. And the flag, which is S, and S stands for static because we configure a static network aggregate translation. You can see the IO for how long it's been on, and the timeout, it hasn't been on timeout. Okay, and if you also want to do this, you can go ahead and cancel this. And if you want to go, you can also do that same command from the command line of the firewall. So if you go to the firewall, and if you do show xlate, when you do a show xlate, you can also see the same command that I did from the ASDM. So I just trying to show you guys that you can do um, command line from the ASDM. You can also do the same show commands that you can do from the command line interface. You can do it from the ASDM as well. And I think you can do a show NAT. Can you do a show NAT translated? Yeah, you can do a show translated interface internet. It's no matching. DMZ, no matching. Okay, translated what? Object. What is the object? If you go ahead to the objects, you can see that it is DNZ trans. And as you can see that um, we have 4 hits and untranslated hits 98. That was when we were trying to configure. If we go ahead and do it again, you can see that this number is going to increase to 5 hits and untranslated hits went to 99. So this is it for this video. This is how you can configure a static NAT using the ASDM, and you also needed to add a access list so the router on the outside network was able to reach the DMZ zone, which is this one. So as you can see, this is the 200.1.1.2 that we were trying to reach, and also the one that we allowed and on the ASA to be able to ping this server right here, which is the TACAX server. So this is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And in another video, I'm going to configure this all um, from the command line. We're not going to be using the ASDM. It's going to be the same um, static network address translation, but from the command line and not from the ASDM. And if you guys enjoyed this video, guys, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at CCNA Daily Tips. And like always, if you don't have a Twitter account, you can go ahead and create a Twitter account and then follow me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye bye.